That's a nice fish. I'm gonna go out and try to get another one this size. Wow. Let's put it back in the water. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta, and for those of you who are regular viewers, you know, a week or so ago I put up a video on how to fish solid body toads. And you know, when in that video I cover some of the baits that I use, the hooks, the riggings. We talked about the rods and reels, how to set up, pair them up with the proper lines and everything. And one thing that I neglected to do was do any on-the-water demonstration on how I fish these, where you fish them, some of the techniques that you use to fish these things. So this is kind of a part 2 to that. We're going to call it, I don't know what we'll call it, you know, fishing toads, the techniques or something like that. But today we're going to just really focus in on 2 frogs. One of them is going to be the Damiki air frog. This is the frog that I talked about that I use primarily for top water. And then my favorite subsurface toad is, you know, sometimes I call them frogs, sometimes I call them toads, but my favorite toad that I fish subsurface is this Zoom horny toad. I've got this on a flashy swimmer. It's got a little blade down here and a 1/4 ounce weight. It's on a 5/0 hook. All of this is covered in the first video if you guys haven't watched that video, and if you want some more information on how to rig these. I've got one spot here that I can demonstrate a lot of what these baits will do. So just remember, you can't fish these frogs wrong. Anything you do, you can catch fish on them, but there are some little techniques and some things that you can do to help you catch a few more fish. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to set up the camera and we're going to talk about fishing topwater frogs. All right, we're out here in this area. I think it's going to be pretty good for some demonstration because we got some kind of nasty surface vegetation. We've got a lot of subsurface vegetation, and in here, let me move this just a little bit. We've got this rock bank in here, and there's a trough. So there's some open water, there's an edge, a vegetation edge on the side here, and then we've got over here some matted vegetation. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about fishing this Damiki air frog. Let me rearrange the camera. I'll throw the frog in the water so you guys can see it and see how the kickers move and so on and so forth. Then we'll make a few casts out here and we'll talk about how to fish this. All right, I've got the Damiki air frog, and we've got the rock bank, we've got the trough, and we've got some subsurface vegetation. But what we want to do here is we can throw it out and just fish it right through the trough like it was a buzz bait. And you can see how that's fishing. It's throwing a lot of disturbance. It's easy to fish, and all you have to do is throw it out. I'll keep my rod tip high a lot of times to keep that frog on top of the water, and I'll just simply reel that frog in. Now, one of the things that you can do with the frog that you can't do with the buzz bait is throw it out, get it moving, and stop it. Just let it sit, start it, stop it, and reel it back to the boat. So that's one way you can fish it in open water. Now let's take a look right out here in this nasty matted vegetation, and this is not real fresh stuff. It's pretty sloppy, and I'll show you how this frog comes through the vegetation. We're going to throw it out. We're going to fish it right on the edge, and this is coming on the edge of the vegetation. You can see it goes right over it. I can stop it and then move it right over the top of it. Let me get out here and we'll throw it out in a little heavier vegetation, and you can see how this frog just comes through everything that a hollow body frog would, right over the top. And again, you can just stop it, twitch it a little bit, and pull it through there. We're coming up to a hole. I'm just going to stop it, start it, stop it, pull it over the mat, stop it, and just fish it like you would a hollow body frog. One more, just out in the nastiest stuff you can get. It's coming right through it. It pops over those tules. Hopefully you can see all this. It's coming over there. And when you get these bites on this moving frog, they are vicious strikes. Now, you know how frog bites are. They come up and just wrap it. Well, when this thing's coming through surface vegetation and it's moving fast like a buzzbait, these fish are total reaction fish. They don't have time to look at it. They don't have time to think about it. They see it, it comes over their head, and bam, they just smash it. I've got what am I using on this? A Zodius 7'2" heavy rod with straight braid, and when those fish come up and grab it, as soon as that rod loads up, I set as hard as I can, just like you would on a regular hollow body frog. That's the Demiki air frog, and some of the ways you can fish this when you are in either open water or surface vegetation like it. Now let's talk about this subsurface bait. We'll talk about a little bit of fishing it through the same type of cover, and then we'll head to another place and we'll go over a couple other little things that we can do. And this is my Zoom horny toad with the flashy swimmer, 1/4 ounce weight on it. We've got that blade down there. It's tied up all weedless, and this is just a do everything type bait for me. The first thing you could do if you have open water is just simply throw it out and reel it in slowly, just like you would a crankbait. And bring it back to the boat. Keep your eye on this bait all the time, because you will see fish come up out of the vegetation, come up and flash at this, or if you're fishing on the edge of vegetation, they'll come out of the vegetation and come out and grab that thing. Now, just like a crankbait or any other bait, it's always good to change up your retrieve speed, stop it, start it, so on and so forth. But one of the things that I really like to do is kill this bait and let it drop for 2 or 3 feet. We'll throw it out. I'll be seeing it's maybe a foot underwater. I'll just stop, and I can see that bait flutter down, and then I'll start it again. Let it flutter down, and if you're in vegetation that may be subsurface vegetation that may be 4 or 5 feet deep, you'll be throwing it out, letting it maybe drop a foot or so, and then let it drop to where you think it's right on top of the surface vegetation, and then reel it back, let it drop, and you'll see it flutter down. And as you kill it and this thing flutters, it just has a very erratic motion, like it's dying, and a lot of times that's when you'll see the fish pull up and grab. And this is a killer retrieve, and this is something that I do, and I've never heard anybody else talk about this. And I do a little, I'm going to call it the shake. I'll throw it out, and I want to just shake the tip of that rod. And I'm not trying to do it like a jerk bait. I'm not jerking it, I'm shaking it. And what you'll want to do when you're first trying this technique, throw it out about 15 feet and watch the bait and see what it looks like as you are just slowly reeling the bait in. And then in your next cast, throw it out to the same spot, same speed, but just give it this action and see what it does to those tails. It makes the bait undulate, and it kind of stops and starts and stops and starts, and it's just an action that drives these fish crazy. So in this situation, open water, we're just throwing this bait out just like it was a crankbait. Do the twitching thing, stop it, let it get right to the top of the subsurface vegetation, and start it and stop it, and it's just a killer way to fish this. Hopefully you guys can see this first little patch of vegetation right out here. I'll kind of write what we have here. A lot of times what I do, whatever it is, it could be a tule clump, it could be hyacinth, it could be anything, I'll overcast my target, I'll pull it right to the target, right about there, and I'll just drop it. And I'll let it drop down just like it was a jig. Or what we can do is, if you've got really bad snot like I have now, and you don't want to pull snot off your line the whole time, you could pull it over the top, overcast your target, pull it over the top, and then as it gets over the top, you just kill it at that point and let it drop on this side of the vegetation. Let's show you what it looks like when we would be pulling it right through this type into that hole. So I'm going to overcast, I'm going to keep my rod tip high, I'm going to let that bait come over the top, and then I'm just going to drop it. Twitch it, bring it back. And a lot of times, as soon as that bait comes to, hopefully you can see it right in the edge, and you drop it, that's when the fish will come out and hit it. Now we'll throw it out, comes through some of this stuff, they'll take it on top. When it comes into that last one, I'll just drop it and let that thing set. No wrong way to fish this bait. Let's head over to another spot and we'll talk about how to fish this around some different types of cover. All right, we've pulled up on a little different type of vegetation here, and I'm just going to walk you through how I would fish an area like this. This is primrose. It's nasty stuff, but I can throw this frog or this toad in, the flashy swimmer, and I could just throw it over the top of all of this primrose. Maybe it's a foot to 2 foot below the surface. I can see that real nasty vine stuff that's you know, none of us like to fish, but the fish will hold in it, and I can fish it right over the top. Just like a crankbait, I want to throw this to the edge, and I'll try to fish the edge of hyacinth or primrose, or it could be a dock or anything, and just get it as close to the edge as I can. Maybe make a long cast. I can fish open water with this, twitch it, stop it, reel it back to the boat. Stay on your trolling motor. This is a bait that you can cover some water with fairly quickly. Here's a situation I come across quite often. You can see an area like this. It looks good. There could be a fish in there, and I've got some of this surface vegetation like this frond that's coming out, and it's hard to fish anything with an exposed hook. But what I can do with this flashy swimmer is throw it way to the back, pull it up. It's about a foot under the surface, and I'm going to come right up to that branch, and I could lift it over there. You probably couldn't see that, but as I lift it over that branch, I kill it and let it flutter down in there. Now, let's take a little different look of what's right in front of us over here. A lot of nasty stuff in there, and again, this is something that I would probably fish with a hollow body frog in a lot of cases, but what I'm going to do is throw a flashy swimmer in there. Maybe I'll overcast this whole patch of stuff, and I'll work it through right to the edge. I'll drop it, and I'm on the far edge of that surface vegetation. I can see it. You might see it pull over the top. I just dropped it down. Twitch, twitch, pull it up over the top, drop it down, and I'm letting it go in each one of those holes. Now, if I can't do that with this subsurface frog, or toad, excuse me, I keep calling them frogs, I can take the Demiki, the topwater, and let's throw it across that same area. Looks like a buzzbait. It's coming across. It comes right across that mat. Maybe I'll kill it right there. Now I'm going to throw it way to the inside, way back there where I would only throw a hollow body frog. This is the Demiki air frog. It's in some nasty stuff. It comes through. We're going to pull it right over this stuff. And you can see it coming right over the top of it. We've just come out. We've got a lot of offshore tule. There's some surface vegetation. There's some underwater vegetation. But I'll start off with the air frog, and we'll just pull it through there just to see if we can get some kind of great reaction bite where a fish is going to come up and just slam it. If I want to go through the nastiest stuff, I'll throw it right through there and just pull it through just to see if I can get that bite. Hopefully you guys can see that coming through there. It's coming through everything I need it to, just like a four-wheel drive. Didn't get bit with that. I can see some holes in there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fish around that, keep the camera on, and I'll show you how I would fish the subsurface frog as we go down this bank. One of the things that you can do when you have offshore tules is overcast the target and pull it right through the tules, just like it was a spinner bait. And you want to hit the tule as you're coming through and then just twitch it through. Hopefully you guys can see this bait falling on the surface mat, which is primrose, and I can pull it over the top and let it drop in and just flutter down. I could see that blade flashing on there, and I know it's working for me. If there's an aggressive fish down there, it's going to take it as soon as it comes over that edge and drops down to a little deeper depth. I see a lot of stuff inside that looks like it could hold a fish, so I'm going to drop my zoom. I'm going to pick up the Damiki, and just by using these two baits, I can cast it way inside here, and I know you guys probably can't see that, so I'm going to turn the camera around, show you what we got up against the bank. Okay, now we can throw this in here, fish this area, fish it really quick, see if we get anything coming up, and you can see it's coming right across those mats. I've got a spot way back in here that I'd like to fish, so let's throw this thing back there. Doesn't get hung up. Man, I like to see a big crash on that thing. Buzzing it right over the top of this stuff. Man, that looks good. Once you get bit doing this, man, you'll do it for hours and hours, just hoping for that next bite, and it will come. Come on, baby. Boy, I wish I could catch one for you guys on film. I know it's a little bit late in the tide to be catching fish, but it's a great time for me to demonstrate because I'm not worried about not being in the right spot at the right time. So I'm going to make this last cast, and we're going to sign off. All right, I think you guys have a pretty good idea of how to fish these toads, whether it's on the surface or subsurface. Remember, there is a kind of a precursor to this this video, I think, and again, I think we called it Fishing Toads, the hot bait, and that'll give you all the riggings and talk more in depth about the baits and the rods and reels that we use, so on and so forth. But I think you guys have a pretty good idea of how to fish these things now. If you get on them and you stay on them, number one, you're going to sooner or later use that Damiki air frog. You're going to get a huge explosion. Once you get that first, vicious strike, it's going to give you that confidence to just throw it and throw it and throw it. It's kind of like throwing a frog or punching. You don't get a bite every cast, but man, when you do, they're something special. And with this subsurface frog, you're going to get just as many, or toad, you're going to get just as many fish as you do with crankbaits, chatterbaits, and things of that nature. So thank you guys for watching. Go out there and catch some fish. Send me some pictures. Send me some reports. And I appreciate all you guys. See you on the water. Good luck.